All right, glad to have you back. And so we'll be moving straight ahead to something very, very soft, away from the monetary issues now to talking about how to get love from one's personality profile. And of course, we have joining us right here is our amazing guest. He is by name Mr. Kolade Stephen Adeniyi. He is a life coach and of course a behavioral expert. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. Great to be here. Great to be back on the show. As usual, I think I'm getting used to it. So we can say good morning to Nigeria and to everybody. Yeah. At least as even though we don't have fuel and there is no
cash
and there is no new naira note, you know, we can control. We can give love. Yeah.
Yes.
That is cash free. It's like air that we breathe. So there's a choice that we have. So yeah, I'm glad to be here so that we can do justice more to this conversation.
All right, so when you talk about in spite of the situation we're going through, we can give love, how specific can that be?
Oh, it can be very specific. It's that, so one of the things you do in the Tigro model in coaching, which of course I think I've mentioned on this show before, is that if you're coaching people, you work within the parameters of the consistent realities. Your realities are saying, what are the things within my locus of control? And what are the things that are outside my control? Then people will oftentimes tell you, okay, I'll cite a classic example. Someone called me yesterday, we had a conversation, and she was telling me that I didn't call, that I wasn't calling to find out how she was doing and everything. And I said, but I initiated this conversation. You know, you had the problem, I may not be able to fix it, but the only thing I can do is to say, what's within the context of this situation right now? Do you have control of? You're complaining that your phone, you don't have a good phone because you need to do social media marketing. Your phone was stolen, you're using your brother's phone, yeah? So what can your brother's phone do? What can it do? What can't it do? Which of the social media platform can he access comfortably? If you can't take the quality picture, is there somebody who's a friend? Can you explore talking to the person? Can the person's phone be used to do your random pictures or do your videos, transfer to your own phone and you do your posts? So there are consistently a lot of options. So life becomes harder the moment we shut out options from it. So when you open your mind to options, then it's easy. So which is the same thing I said last week about love. Love, bulk of the time, it's a choice. I've said it and I'll continue to say love is a choice and a decision. It is not the fluttering of butterflies in my tummy. It is not the feel-gooey feeling of emotion that rushes. No, it is a decision and a choice you consistently have to make as we go on.
So are you saying right about now, sorry, you're going to ask a question. Are you saying right about now that if one do not initiate a conversation about what he or she is going through, it's impossible to feel love? Because you said you're complaining, but I initiated the conversation.
Yeah.
So you mean if the person does not initiate that conversation, love cannot be felt?
No. So, you know, I was giving an example about how people, so I've just cited as an example. So people will naturally, I don't know, and I notice this a lot, and I think it's a Nigerian thing. And I would say this and I'll go back to that, which is, this is a country where we trade in sorrow and we trade in pain. For example, you tell somebody, that mama man, I no chop yesterday. You say, JB, you not chop it, I never chop for 2 or 3 days. So it's like a competition. So we trade in sorrow and the worst case scenario. So I said that because the person in question we're having a conversation, and instead of saying, oh, you took out time to check on me, the person was focusing on the fact that you are not helping my situation. And me to be in a typical Nigeria, like when, oh man, all of us need help. Somebody will come right. We'll do all right. Help me. So that was why I stated that. But back to our conversation about love, I'm saying that directly. If you understand the place of love, loving, emotional relationship in that context, then you want to approach it from the angle of a choice and a decision. And in the example I gave, I made a choice to show empathy by reaching out. I said, oh, I've not spoken to this person. I just want to, it's been a minute. I want to catch up with you, know what's been happening with you. That is a decision of love. That's an act of love. Yeah, that's an act of love to say, okay, I'm showing empathy. I want to know how you're doing. I want to know what's happening with you. Then, it now determines how the person receives it, which of course is another because we'll now be talking about the duality of things, and I don't want to go into.
Okay, Mr. Kolade, Apart from the financial assistance and gifts we give to our loved ones, what are other forms of love we can give to them?
Okay, so that's primarily one of the reasons why I'm back on the show today, to draw a bit of emphasis and help people understand. If you read Gary Chapman's book that talks about the 5 languages of love, it talks about act of service, it talks about gifts, it talks about affirmation, it talks about physical touch. Yeah, so these are types of way to show love, you know. But so I don't want us to even narrow down in the context of the 5 love languages. I want us to scale it even a bit higher. You know, I want to do it, which is the behavioral part of me that I sort of literally enjoy, which is that the ability to be able to make the best of relationship with people, whether it's love, whether it's business, whether it's life, whether it's even in the home. So if you understand first that 2 children born of the same mother are consistently different from each other.
Yeah, even twins, they have different personalities.
Just took it straight out of my mouth.
Yes.
You know, before you call Mama Ejime out of love, I begin to feel cool, you know. So the reality is that, number one, we need to understand that there are things that influence the behavior of human, whether or not we accept it or not. So the one we are familiar with is the human DNA. So what does the DNA do? It transfers physical features from person to person through the gene. So that means that's why for some of us who are parents, we can have children and say, when I see your daughter, it reminds me of your mother or something. Right. And these are consistent realities that we can't contend with. Interestingly, we've also found out by science that the DNA also passes behavior.
Yeah.
You are processing it.
No, I'm telling you, you're right.
So that's why you find out that if you've met some people and you say, why are you always screaming? Why are you always angry? And they will scream back and say, no, you have not seen anger. Come to my family. And they genuinely really mean it. If you go to that family, you find out that anger naturally seeps from their blood. It runs easily. You know? So that's why I'm sure even for viewers right now, and I like to most times give examples to drive home the conversation. For example, if we ask the average person that's watching us from home, and we say, when you think about Igbo people, what do you think? Everybody will naturally say money.
Money, yes. Business.
Business. Enterprise.
Yes.
So if I say Ijebu people, what would you think about?
Gary.
Party, Gary. Or that they are stingy.
I don't know that part.
Okay, well, it's the common one, that they are very stingy
very
people.
Conservative.
Yes.
Okay, thanks for the choice of word, but stingy is the reality. So then when we talk about, say, Hausa people, there are also certain things that will come up. So the big question is, do you think these things come out of mistake or by learned biases? No. It means there's some core elements of truth in this reality. So which now brings me to say that the best way to give love is to understand the person you are with or you love and speak the language that they speak. And the easiest way I like to speak is this. If the analogy I like to give is this, if the way I understand is in Efik, if my understanding is in Efik, and when you speak to me, you're speaking to me in Igbo, what do you think will happen?
Misunderstanding.
So which is one of the things that happens also in relationships. So that's why, as a behavioral expert and as someone who has used profiling tools in the last 10 years, so I like to narrow down on one that I think is a bit more familiar with me. Of course, human personality styles will fall into 2. You're either extrovert or introvert. You're either outgoing or reserved.
Yes.
So if you find out
but you can be both. Sorry to cut you in. You can be both. It depends on the environment and who you are with. Talking about. I like the
fact that you're the one interviewing, but I'm the one doing the job.
Because
if you know all these things,
but sometimes isn't it very impossible or sometimes very difficult if you have somebody who is more of the reserved type, and you're trying to get this person into that vibe,
like the outgoing.
I like that thing. That's one word that this Gen X always throws. Say, give me the vibe and the energy.
Okay, you have a partner who doesn't like attending parties, and you've been with this person for quite a while. People see you, in an event and like, where's your wife? They're like, oh, she's at home.
It's really people that's doing both of you.
So how do you get that kind of person into that kind of vibe?
Okay, so number one, I find it hard when people tell me, oh, my spouse, my lover doesn't do these things, and I love to do these things. So understand that your lover, your spouse, or the person you're with, they've had a conditioning. We call it conditioning in psychology. They've done something for so long that they've become accustomed to that. In psychology, we call condition. So they've conditioned themselves to behave, reply, respond a certain way. So that's why I was trying to drive that. So you now need to understand that if somebody is not extroverted, you can't force them to be extroverted. Because extrovert is out, introvert is in.
Yes.
So you now need to know, then to speak to what she said earlier, that people can be both. Yes. In fact, the biggest way I like to answer that question is by saying that you respond often to the environment and the situation that you find yourself. So the human behavior and nature by design is fluid, is adaptable. Yeah. So it keeps on adapting to the environment that is exposed to. That's why, and I like to give this interesting example also. You will never go to a place of worship, at least in my years, either in the mosque or the church. And you see, no matter how bold or how bad or how terrible the person is, and they will go to those places of worship wearing a swimsuit.
No, it's not possible.
Why? Because there's a certain level of reverence we give to these places of worship. Why? Because it's human nature. Just the same way you can't come on the show and they wear a pair of big shorts also, and they will say, is either they don't pay you complete salary at the end of the month, but I can do it because I'm a guest. So certain environments determine how we behave, which now comes into the conversation of nature versus nurture. Are you nurtured into something, or do you nurture yourself out of it? So when you understand this thing, then you now begin to realize that the human nature, there's a popular group I grew up reading by Tim LaHaye that talks about, of course, back in the day, spirit control temperament, that talks about phlegmatic, choleric, sanguine, and melancholy. Interestingly, for those who are at home, he's not the one who came up with that school of thoughts. It was by Empedocles, a Greek philosopher, but he popularized it. So the one I like to talk about is the one I like to call the DISC model. The DISC model was popularized also by I think his name, I just forgot his name now, a popular doctor who created, for those of us who are big comic children, the Wonder Woman character, and he was the original inventor of the lie detector machine. So if you notice that if you watch the Wonder Woman character, she has what we call the lasso of truth, which of course symbolizes or similar to what she talks about. So the personality styles that he talks about, he calls them the DISC. So the DISC are the dominant, the influencer, the steady, and the conscientious, or the one we like to call the correct style. And then most of the times when I teach this, I like to talk about it using the example of animals, so that doesn't sound so academic and people can connect with it. So that's why I said today I would rather have that conversation and use it to draw so that people can understand, and I'll get to what you're talking about. Okay,
we don't really have much time on the show.
Wow.
So apart from love, what is that major ingredient you can tell to us and the public that can sustain a relationship with your spouse, your colleagues, your friends, apart from love?
Apart from love, be adaptable, be adaptable, be adaptable.
Okay.
All right.
It's one thing. That's the one thing you can always add to the ingredient of that.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate your time. Well, that's the much we can share with you on the show today, and we do hope you've, in one way or the other, picked some point from what he just said. If by any means you missed the conversation, well, you can go to our YouTube at iBrandTV to catch every bit of it. Once again, my name is Joshua Okata, but before we go, let's quickly read the quote for today, which says, "Not having the best situation, but seeing the best in your situation is the key to happiness." Yes, so once again, my name is Joshua. Till we see you tomorrow, God willing. Have a wonderful day.
Okay. My name is Mboso Udabo. Thanks for joining us. Do have a great day. Bye.